Hello Internet, and welcome to Who Cares, where we're going to discuss and debate the Doctor on his adventures through space and time.
And no matter how far you run, Matilda, you can never escape Miss Trunchbull, not even in space.
I am here to teach you all a lesson. Sometimes in life, horrible and unexplainable things happen. These things are a test of character. And I have character.
Hello everyone, I'm Hugo.
And I'm Jake.
And this is Who Cares? Woo! First part of the finale. I'm excited to talk about this. By the way,
Same.
sorry that last week's episode's review came out so late. I literally forgot about it because I was working on a really long other review and was up for 48 hours straight. So I apologize, but this one, much more timely. So I'm glad we're all here to be able to finally talk about Moffat's final season finale. Obviously written by him, directed by, I want to say it's Rachel Talalay.
That sounds right.
Rachel Talalay, whom I mentioned in the last episode, directed Freddy's Dead, The Final Nightmare, and Tank Girl. But she does good on Doctor Who somehow. Maybe she's just more television-minded. So Jake, what did you think of The World Enough in Time?
Just so you know, this is full of spoilers. If you haven't seen it, you ought to watch it beforehand because it does have spoilery things in it. I thought it was one of Moffat's best episodes in a long time, specifically because he wrote it, not one he has a writing credit on, but one that he actually, this was his story. And also I was disappointed in the way they marketed it.
Well, there are two things. Spoilers. Jake already said it. Spoilers. Okay. But in fairness, that's more warning than the BBC gave you. So, months and months ago, before the season even began to air, the season trailer revealed that John Sim, the last Master before Missy, was appearing in the finale. This episode, the way it was constructed and written, I don't blame Moffat at all, because the structure of the episode is good. The reveal is well-paced, and I'm not going to lie to you. John Sim, if you haven't seen the episode, turns out, as the Master, he is in disguise, like 95% of this episode. I know I'm dumb, but I'm going to admit this. I didn't realize it was him until the final scene when he walks into that room with Missy alone and starts bantering with her.
See, and I did, and...
But here's the thing, though, too. If you weren't thinking John Sim at all in your head, if it wasn't in any of the trailers, you would have been like, holy shit, John Sim!
Exactly! And that's what I wanted. Like, if they wouldn't have told me John Sim was in this season at all, I wouldn't have been looking for it. Because as soon as he's like... I don't know. They start sitting around and he's like making comments about, well, I guess we'll explain the premise in a second, but the Doctor on the video screen. I thought, well, that's the Master. That's clearly the Master. Like, you look around his room, it looks like the last time we saw a Master before we knew it was one.
Yana.
Dr. Yana.
Okay,
it looks exactly like that. So anyways, let's back up. I really like the concept of this as well. We had some theories before where maybe it was a simulation because the Doctor wouldn't trust Missy, but apparently he does. Huge mistake.
Here's my thing. In theory, it could still be a simulation, but I don't think it is anymore. But
correct. You're
they
right.
could technically do that at the end of the week.
So there's a 400-mile long spaceship, which is cool. It's running away from, well, it's reversing away. It's actually going, the front of it's towards the black hole, but it's moving backwards very slowly away from a black hole. For seemingly several hundred years, apparently.
Well, no, 2 days, but also several hundred years.
Right, because it's using the interstellar time dilation thing, which is real. I don't know how accurate it is as far as the 400 miles. It doesn't really matter for storytelling purposes. It's totally fine. We're all familiar with it because of Interstellar, and he used it correctly without being like, "Haha, I'm Interstellar, look at Matthew McConaughey." Like, he didn't know jokes about that, which Moffat could easily do, and he's been known to make references to stuff before, but no talking crow moments, basically. The bottom of the bottom of the ship is way ahead in time compared to the top of the ship, So every moment up here, like it was like every second up here is like months.
Yeah, someone actually on the Doctor Who or Gallifrey subreddit, there are actually 2 Doctor Who subreddits, Doctor Who and Gallifrey. Gallifrey's for like text-based discussion, Doctor Who's for more like pictures and, oh, look at the art I did, in case anyone wants to look at those communities. Someone did the calculation on like how long each minute was. It was something ridiculous. Basically, they figured she spent at least 3 or 4 years down there from her perspective.
Right. She mentions at one point it's been years, so... I guess, I don't know, I really liked that mechanism, though, and I really liked Missy in the short time, and it was really weird that she called him Doctor Who, and then they explained it, and I really liked her explanation. It was a little fourth wall-y, but it wasn't like cringy Moffat fourth wall-y that can usually happen. She basically explains, okay, if I say the Doctor, they're going to say Doctor Who, and then I'm going to explain that that's just my name and blah, blah, blah. I'm just cutting to the chase. I'm already there, right? I'm saving us time. It felt like, yeah, why does the Doctor always fucking do that? It felt a little bit, it was fun because Missy's cutting away the bullshit facade of how the Doctor usually operates as
right. That whole
fanciful.
scene, I thought it was cute. I get it. I get how it's a little bit like Deadpool in that, depending on your mood, it's either funny or cringy. Because she comes out with Nardole and Bill, and she's just like, oh, here's, whatever, the exposition and the comic relief, which obviously are their roles in the show, so it's kind of dissecting tropes. Missy also dabs in this episode, which I'm not going to lie.
Was that a dab?
She did dab, because at one point
I didn't know if it was like a... was it like a hip-hop dab, or was it like it almost looked like a bow turned into a dab?
I don't know. It was definitely a dab in some way, shape, or form, because she goes like this. Sorry, hit the microphone.
Sure.
But
I get you. I get it. For me, well, that's a little dated. Don't dab anymore. Also, no Harambe memes.
So after some discussion, I wonder if this was actually foreshadowing, because there are several times this season, at least 2, where Bill has interesting interactions with blue aliens, this blue alien species. I think this was foreshadowing and intentional. There was a racism thing in Oxygen, and there was one other time she ran into a blue alien. I don't remember which time.
I feel like it was at a marketplace early on.
Maybe, but... she gets shot by a blue guy, and what I really appreciated about this scene where she gets shot is the Doctor is in the middle of doing what he always does. He's trying to calm the guy down and say, listen, I'm the Doctor, I'm great, I'm going to save everyone, and normally
I really liked that.
Normally this is where things de-escalate, and the person puts the gun down and listens to the Doctor. Not in this case. He straight up shoots Bill right through the chest, and I thought, oh, this is going to be stupid, this is going to be... bullshit Moffat.
No, she had a DBZ hole in her fucking chest.
It zooms down, and she's got a full-blown hole cauterized through her chest, and I was like, holy shit, Moffat, are you actually gonna do this? Because my criticism of Moffat is he's great at setups. He's always been great at setups. It's the payoffs, and he always backtracks, because I don't think he ever likes to say goodbye to a character. However, this being his final season... he kind of has to, right? He knows he's not in charge of bringing these characters back anymore.
Right.
So maybe he'll finally say, hey, let's do something final. Let's do a final thing for a character.
You know what, though? And by the way, I also really like that scene, and I really like that it shot like basically right next to the Doctor, and it happened because the thing dinged and the guy freaked out, and it didn't matter what the Doctor was saying, and it had a really good tone to it, because you fully expected the Doctor to win again. And I appreciate Moffat going, you know what? He doesn't have to win every time.
Yep.
Because that takes courage as a writer to stop doing the thing you've been fucking doing over and over. And I thought that moment was like, for Moffat as a writer, probably really hard to write.
Yeah.
given his track record. But so good on Moffat. Good job, Steve. I also really like the idea. So if Bill actually dies, right? Tennant and Smith were both running away from an event, and that's why they were kind of like Matt Smith specifically, he was just running further and further away from the Time War stuff. So Eccleston starts out, and he's kind of very reserved and stuff, then Tennant happens, and he has that dark side that he turns on, and he like murders spider people, but also he's like really charming and fun, and then Matt Smith doesn't want to kill anybody, and he tries really hard not to, but of course he has those big moments when he has to, but he's still like, and then once he faces the Time War, it's back to Capaldi where he can be more serious and severe. This next guy that's rumored is typically a comedian. So if Bill actually dies, it makes sense, headcanon-wise, for the Doctor to run away from that again and start playing jokes and stuff and being more of a comedy character. Especially since a lot of people that don't like Capaldi are people that really, really like Matt Smith.
Yeah, I have a feeling in the next season, whoever they cast as the Doctor, who's already been cast, by the way, Russell T Davies, obviously, he's not on the show anymore, but he has close ties to everyone on the show.
Sure.
So he says he knows who the next Doctor is, so it has been cast, it just hasn't been announced. It'll probably be announced about within a month after the finale, I would guess. But I'm concerned because Moffat gonna Moffat. I'm really, really worried next week he's gonna undo the Bill thing, even though.
Well, I mean, she gets repaired in this one, but I think we should talk about that first.
Oh, you're right. So let's fill in some gaps. By the way, after Bill gets shot, we get a sort of flashback to Capaldi trying to sell Nardole and Bill on this whole Missy in charge of an adventure to test her thing.
I really liked their conversation on the rooftop.
I thought that was well done, too. It would have been really easy. See, again, this is where Moffat, when he does well in ordering things and figuring out how to put a script together, because it would have been real easy to put those scenes first, maybe even as the cold open, which we'll talk about the cold open at the ending. I didn't forget. It just makes sense to do it at the end. Yeah. It would have been easy to have a cold open where the Doctor's trying to convince them of something, and then the stinger at the end of the cold open is, we're gonna have Missy go on an adventure, theme song, then it opens with them landing. Instead, what they did was had the cold open they did have, which was intriguing, obviously, and then have them land, and then backtrack, and it
made the moment stronger, too, because, like, the promise, the idea of him promising, hey, I'm gonna protect you, and then they joke about humans being easy to kill, basically. And the Doctor's like, I'll protect you, basically. And the joke is that he's like, of course I'm going to fucking protect. Of course, right?
Yeah.
Like, I'm the Doctor. I mean, you're fine. It rarely bad things happen to my people. And, of course, she gets fucking, Goku'd right through the chest. And playing that over top of the, you see Capaldi's reaction to it, which is obviously a severe one. And he's pissed off. And then having them just have an actual tender moment, which is kind of nice when the Doctor has those, when it's not Clara. It made it feel worse than it would have if that had been the cold open, for sure.
Yes, I agree. So, next, Bill, Cybermen, or I'm sorry, not Cybermen, some people come up from the elevator. This is a plot hole thing, but I can accept it. The minute Bill stepped out of the ship, the Cybermen should have come out of the elevator, because with the time differential, she would have been sitting frozen there, for probably weeks.
Sure.
You know what I mean? So it should have been instant.
Oh, no, yeah, you're right.
I can let that go. It's fine. I get it. You gotta kind of write around it. Whatever. I would even say, as they ascend the elevator, it takes longer and longer because they're catching up to the time stream, whatever. So, Bill goes below decks, wakes up, she's with this guy named Mr. Razor, or no, that doesn't happen yet. She wakes up and she's in a hospital. This hospital is full of people, very creepy, very body horror, people with bags over their heads or masks, and the only way they can communicate is via these voice boxes, think Stephen Hawking, and they are often just continually pressing the button that says pain, pain, pain.
Or kill me, or
kill me.
It was really good imagery, and I thought that there's threads, and there's a distance you can take a bit, whether it's a comedy bit or a horror bit specifically, or just any tension, whatever. Think of every scene is like a rubber band basically, and you got to pull it, but you can't let it snap and you can't let it lax when you're doing horror. And Bill starts wandering through, and a lot of the time, this is when the Doctor just shows up and you're reassured that nothing bad is going to happen. But in the good horror episodes, like Blink, that tension stays there a lot. And now this wasn't the whole episode, but this sequence was, She walks in there, and it's saying pain, 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 and then there's a pause. Pain, pain, pain. And it doesn't... You know, like if you hear a ringer in a movie, it might go on too long and you get fucking annoyed and pulled out of the experience. It wasn't like that. It was actually really perfect. And she walks over, and the thing's still going, and you can see that it's like whoever acted that, it was obviously a very simple job, but they did a good job of like laboring to press the button. And so it felt really good. And then she hides, and then the nurse comes in. The Matilda joke comes in, and she does something to the top of the thing because they all have like basically bags that you'd see in a hospital, but they're obviously spacey. And Bill goes to inspect it, and all it was she turned the fucking volume down. I thought that was really awesome.
What I don't understand is if they don't want to listen to him say how much it hurts, why are you plugging him into the microphone in the first place? Because if you didn't, it wouldn't be creepy. Still Moffat.
I mean, it wouldn't, but before, like, other than that, they do communicate before that, so it's established they use that to communicate.
Oh, fair. Oh, no, you're right. So maybe not all of them are in... I'm sorry. So maybe not all of them are in that constant of pain. It's just a lot of them. I don't know.
Yeah, well, I mean, Mr. Razor, who seems nice, he kind of explains it later on in some scenes that, like, yeah, a lot of them are in a lot of pain, and a lot of it's really horrible, but we're helping, because otherwise, if we don't do this, we'll die.
I don't understand their thought. Here's what I would have done to kind of flesh this out a little bit more. I assume this is going to tie into the Master's plan, the Sim Master, and we'll find out next week. But what he's explaining to them is it's too hostile outside. It's too polluted in here. We don't, we need to upgrade ourselves to survive. I think what would be a great idea, because so much time has passed, and obviously all these people descended from just like, what did they say?
Genetically, they're getting fucked up.
Genetically, they're getting fucked up, but I would also like if the Master was sort of pulling the strings in a sense and saying to them, like, maybe they don't have a lot of access about the universe. It's the future, but we don't know if they have access to, like, future internet or TV or anything. Maybe the Master is saying to them, yeah, most of space is empty and cold and fucking awful, which is true, but you know what I mean? Maybe he makes it seem worse than it is, so he's saying, yeah, you need to turn yourself into robot people to survive, because look at where we are. Look at how hostile the universe is.
Right, and also, Mr. Razor will mention later on that, like, they've tried expeditions up, and people have died.
I wonder how it'll turn out to be part of his plan.
Right, I assume that's a lie, but because Mr. Razor's the Master, that's fine, whatever. Which was a good reveal if I didn't already know John Sim was in the fucking episode. Like, really fucking perfect reveal. But, so I don't know what was true that he said, which is a good way to do the Master.
Sure.
Also, I don't think, was that actually John Sim in makeup? Because it doesn't look like it.
No, it was him. I think it was him. I can
look. Well, if it was, he did a really fantastic job. Whoever did a great job. I mean, he was great. And if it was John Sim, I couldn't tell. Like, I knew it was him in my head. I figured it out pretty quick. But I still, like, looking for it, I couldn't tell. So if it was him, the makeup was fucking great.
Well, they left it uncasted in IMDb. It's got to be him then, because they left it uncasted on IMDb.
That's fair.
Keep the twist. So Bill tries to escape. Doesn't go well for her. She does it with Mr. Razor, who of course turns her in. The doctor finally... I found it weird that the doctor, despite knowing that there was a time differential, took all the fucking time in the world to go get Bill. Like, he knew. He took time to write a goddamn diagram. Also, the sonic screwdriver has a marker in it now, which is funny. I'm sure the toy manufacturer, the minute that happened, went, oh, we get to come out with another version and sell it. And I will waste money on it because I am a piece of shit.
I don't, but...
I like the toys and stuff. So, then the Doctor, Missy, and Nardole do sort of go down into the depths of the ship and explore a little bit. The Doctor decides to go off, and Mr. Razor comes in to talk to Missy. This is the big reveal, which is done very well. This is the point where I first realized who it was. I don't know why. Maybe it's because I was so focused on I guess I just assumed he was going to show up at the end, so I wasn't even thinking about him being someone else, considering what they did with Dr. Yana, Professor Yana in that episode. I guess I didn't think they'd do it twice. So, Yeah,
I thought the conversation was really good. It was a little heavy-handed at times, like as far as the reveal is concerned. Like, oh, you've been here before, you just don't remember. Like,
well, that's
clearly...
Doctor Who-y, though. I don't.
No,
mind
I know
that's...
it is, but I feel like he could have pulled it back just a touch, because he suddenly is sinister, and so you kind of assume. But I think for a lot of people who don't like delve into the Who, rumors and shit, probably a lot of people thought, holy fuck. Especially old Who fans that like were around since Eccleston Tennant, because John Sim like is a real highlight of Tennant's run, and I was still really happy about it, even though I knew, and so I can't imagine my actual reaction to it if I genuinely didn't know. Like think you knew John Sim was here, so you knew when he started talking, but if you don't know any of that, that was a really well-paced review. And Missy not knowing is interesting, still enough for me to go, oh, I have to know why she doesn't understand. So my thought maybe is like Missy dies here?
Well,
like if it's close to a regeneration, do they have memory issues?
No, it's with multi-doctor stories or they've never done a multi-master story. This is the first one.
Oh, that's right. They forget.
They forget until the final version of the Doctor has gone through all the events. They don't remember it. So like Capaldi remembers all the events of Day of the Doctor now when Smith met Tennant, but Smith, for instance, didn't remember that until it was over.
Right.
And again, remember how Matt Smith didn't know Gallifrey was definitely still around, despite he met that future version of the Doctor, the Curator?
Right.
That's because the Curator is the only one who remembers that conversation. Time Lords as a protection against, messing with their own future and causing
That's
rifts.
right.
It's a defense mechanism. It erases
I'm surprised.
their memory.
Maybe they'll explain that in the next episode, because it's for new fans.
Yeah.
I had forgotten about that. That's actually pretty smart.
Yeah, multi-doctor stories and stuff like that doesn't happen very often. So they usually, in episodes like that, will explain that. Because there's only been, I'm trying to think, the 3 Doctors, the 5 Doctors, the 2 Doctors, which was the 6th Doctor and the 2nd Doctor.
Wait, was the 50th special the only time, besides the Curator episode, that 2 Doctors were in a room together in New Who?
Those were the same one. The Curator and him were...
Oh, that was the same episode. So, yeah. Fuck. Was that the only one? For real?
Yep. In all of Doctor Who, there only ever been... And I'm not counting, like, specials like the time the 5th Doctor met the 10th Doctor. That was one of those Red Nose Day,
Oh, yeah. That was no
jokey things. So there's only been 4 official multi-Doctor stories in the TV show ever. So it's a pretty big deal when we do multi... And this is the first... I mean, really, think about it. In the 50-year history of Doctor Who, whatever it is now...
54?
We've never... This is the first multi-master story ever. That's a pretty big deal.
Yeah.
I mean?
It's with my 2 favorite people that have done it. So,
well, in fairness, who else are they going to get? The most famous one, Delgado's dead.
Right.
They could have done Yana.
Well, I think the guy that did Yana was pretty good, but he wasn't... He turned into Sim, and Sim stole the show.
Right. Well, that guy's doing... Actually, he's doing War Master audios right now, so he is still interested. So I wouldn't mind if they brought him back at some point, but I get it.
Oh, for sure. I just wish... Oh, man, I wish War Doctor was still alive. It's too bad.
This would have been a really nice counterpoint to Day of the Doctor, actually, if you'd had War Master, Tennant Master, Tennant Era Master, and Capaldi Era Master. It'd be a very nice reflection of Day of the Doctor.
Yeah.
But
anyways, this is really good. By the way, the second reveal at the end which wasn't very surprising to me, but I think for people who know how Moffat operates, it's surprising for him that Bill is now a first generation Mondasian Cyberman. Is she the first one ever? I don't know.
She is the first one. Bill is the first Cyberman, assuming this ship is the first ever Cybermen, and Spare Parts is no longer canon, because Spare Parts was I believe a novel that people really liked. It was basically Genesis of the Cybermen, very similar to Genesis of the Daleks.
I think the show takes precedent over
the show does, absolutely. But
yes,
if you wanted to, you could probably argue,
both.
It happened twice. They were both Mondasian, so you could assume they're based on the same technology or something. But
Fair
this
enough,
one, as far as I'm concerned, is the origin of the Cybermen. And for that, I think it's good. The body horror elements are there. I really, really think the classic 60s looking Cybermen are creepier than the modern ones.
It's because they have like rubber aspects to them, and that makes it feel like fake fleshy, and it's...
Well, because I can still see the humanity in there somewhere. Right. The current Iron Cybermen is what I call them, because they look like Iron Man. They just look like robots. They're too robot-y. You know what I mean? It comes to the point where it feels like upgrading people isn't even beneficial to them. Like, what are you doing with the human body? It doesn't seem like you're doing anything. It seems like the robot part is in 100% control, so what's the point?
Well, they use the brains for processing power, but yeah,
But we've seen Cybermen suits and stuff walk on their own. In the Pandorica opens, there was one with... It had its head off and an arm off, and it was still able to walk around.
Oh, yeah, I agree with you. I'm just saying. That's what they say. Now, in the next one, you do have the... I think you have all 3 versions of Cybermen in the next episode.
Actually, let's talk about next time, because I want to bring up some theories about that.
I have theories because as it goes up, they have more time to upgrade.
That's what I'm thinking. What's going to happen is Bill is going to remain a Cyberman
as they go down.
Whatever. Bill's going to remain a Cyberman for most of the episode. I think at the very least near the end, she will snap out of it for at least a minute, and she will get to say goodbye to the Doctor.
Let's talk about that real quick. I have a problem with that because that's Danny 2.0.
It is, but it's going to happen. It's going to happen because it's Moffat, and he also wrote that one, and he likes to do things over and over and over. So I
know, but like, if I were doing it, she wouldn't snap out of it, and the Doctor thinking, "Oh, I've done this before." Especially if it has a line like, "I've done this before." Although he's not, does he? He doesn't remember Clara dying, but does he remember any Clara stuff? Would he remember Danny, even though Clara's not part of his memory strain right now?
I don't think he would remember Danny specifically, but I think he would remember like something happened. He doesn't remember identities, but he remembers events. Does that make sense?
Okay, so if he remembers doing that before, he could say, "Oh, I've done this before," but then maybe, "Oh, the Mondasian version doesn't have the same shit going on. There's no way to save you."
Right.
Sort of thing. I think that'd be more interesting than her coming back. Like, if she has any lucidity back, it's kind of cheap, but why would you have Bill Potts in an episode again that she wouldn't act in? You could do flashbacks though while she's dying.
That's fine. I don't mind that. I'm hoping what the next episode is. I'll probably be disappointed. Again, Moffat tends to let down with his 2-parters.
Yeah.
I said 10 too. I know he's written good ones. What I hope happens is Missy looks like she's going to team up with the other master. But then it turns out she's actually double-crossing him. Missy actually is turning good. I think the reveal is going to be, and I think this is the way they should do it, I think the reveal is going to be Missy isn't Capaldi's contemporary, despite what we've been led to believe. Sim is still the, air quote, current master. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
I think it's going to turn out, because for those of you who don't know, Time Lords, on their TARDISes, they have something called the Eye of Harmony, which is a simultaneously collapsing and exploding star in stasis. It powers the TARDIS, and it also keeps all the Time Lords in the same time frame as how they explain it. So, how do I put it?
That's why they keep running into each other.
It's why they keep running into each other, and it's why they run into each other in the right order, so they're not, like, confused that they missed a bunch of other stuff that they didn't see. Generally, they meet each other in the same order as each other. Does that make sense? That's why Capaldi doesn't run into the first master all the time. He runs into the current master. So I think what the reveal is going to be is that Missy is like a super future version of the master. We don't know. And she somehow broke free of the constraints of the Eye of Harmony. She can now go wherever she wants. So she decided to fuck with Capaldi. I think Missy's going to turn good. Sim's going to be either disappear or be killed in this episode and regenerate into some other master, and then Missy can go off and be a good version of the master, and we never see her again. Does that make sense?
Right, because this is her last season. And if you turn the Master good, and this is a contemporary version, the next Master has to be good too, until there's an event that makes them bad, and that's hard to write around.
Right. So then you could just have evil Master knowing someday in the far future she does become good as Missy, but still we have to contend with the Master until that happens. That's a way to keep the Master a threat in the future if you ever want to bring him or her back, but you still have a satisfying conclusion to Missy. And hey, maybe even that he can reference that in the future. That's a nice bit of lore. When he's fighting the Master in the future, he can even say, listen, this is fruitless. In the future, you become good. And there's nothing you can do about it. And the Master could even be like, doesn't matter, I'm not good now, fuck you. And shoot
Yeah,
someone.
that would lead to interesting conversations. Also, I think Michelle Gomez, given her performance, deserves some sort of fanfare exit.
Yeah. She's probably the best version of the... her and Sim are both good, but I think I like her more than Sim even. She's the best probably since the original, in my opinion. Sorry, Eric Roberts fans.
Yeah, that's not... Snake Eyes. It's weird, man. Wasn't he also didn't he have a snake soul?
Yeah, the Master gets killed in that. He doesn't regenerate, but he has a soul that he then puts in a cop or something played by Eric Roberts.
Oh. Sorry,
Why
Paul.
did the Master have an American accent after he took over that dude's body? An accent isn't physical.
Who knows? So I guess, let's talk about the cold open now.
Oh, sure. And then we'll talk about next time.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, cold open. The Doctor, it's snowy. Again, I think this is going to tie into the Christmas episode. That's going to be the end scene of next episode. He falls out of the TARDIS into the snow, starts to regenerate, and shouts, "No! No!" Which actually, if you remember weeks ago, I talked about the rumors. Do you remember the rumors I was talking about? This basically confirms them.
No.
Remember I said the rumor from 4chan was, and this was weeks and weeks ago. This was before anyone had screeners of this. So it had to be someone leaking it from inside the BBC. They said the finale is going to end with the Doctor stumbling out of the TARDIS into the snow, and he's about to regenerate, but he's about to stop himself from regenerating because something just happened to him. He no longer has companions. I don't know. So something to Bill and Nardole is going to happen probably. And then the Christmas special is going to be Christmas Carol-esque, in which it's going to be in his head, and the guy who played the first Doctor in An Adventure in Space and Time is going to come back and play the first Doctor, and it's going to be a Christmas Carol, and it's going to be the first Doctor as the Ghost of Christmas Past, Bill as the Ghost of Christmas Present, and the next Doctor is the Ghost of Christmas Future, all trying to convince the Doctor, even though he's lost his friends, to regenerate and move on. And that's the Christmas special. Which sounds excellent, by the way. That sounds awesome.
Hopefully that's it, because I'm going to be really disappointed if it's not now.
And it seems at least half confirmed. That is in line with what we've seen so far in the first part of the finale, so it'd be a pretty big coincidence if that's not the case.
Right, especially him saying no. That's a very Moffat thing, because you expect, you've seen the trope where, someone goes, "No," and they scream to the sky, but the Doctor doing it would have intention behind it, and that's kind of a very Moffat-y thing. The Doctor would say the same thing, but he has a reason. Maybe he's the first person to ever scream no into the sky, and that's why, and then we all emulate it. Talking birds.
My alternative theory is actually almost more interesting, and I don't know which one I like better, because they're pretty neat, both of them. Are you aware of how the first Doctor regenerated, Jake, or anything surrounding that?
I am not.
Okay. So the story in which the first Doctor finally regenerated into the second Doctor was the first appearance of the Mondasian Cybermen. I guess at the time of the Cybermen. There were no distinction between Cybus and Mondasian because there were no Cybus Cybermen. So that also happened on a frozen planet, and the Doctor ended up fighting the Cybermen. This was a story in which he really, really decided to, I'm the Doctor, it is my job to be the guy who stops the bad people. And once that ends, he's so worn out, because he's old, he's so worn out from fighting the Cybermen, he regenerates into the second Doctor, which is the first time there was ever a regeneration. And of course, that's where we get a lot of what we know about the Doctor today is the second Doctor, because that's when he really starts to become, I'm going to go around and save people, and I'm going to be silly sometimes, but it is what it is. So I think it would be neat if it turned out Capaldi had landed on the same place from the 10th planet, which is the episode of that, and it turns out accidentally Capaldi brought the Mondasian Cybermen there, and he's the reason the first Doctor also regenerates. And you have an episode in which the Doctor is running around and maybe trying to affect events of the that first Doctor story in the background. Does that make sense?
Yeah, that would be really referential.
So you'd have sort of two Doctors both regenerating, and you'd have a parallel story going on. I think it'd be cool. I don't know. But as far as next week, I think what's going to happen is, like I said, Missy, I think, will be good. She'll team up with the Doctor. Bill will still be a Cyberman. Nardole will be there, or he'll be killed. And the reason I think we're seeing so many different kinds of Cybermen is the time differential, and I think they're going to build this as one of the greatest battles in Doctor Who history. The Doctor and the Master, or Missy, side by side, fighting an army of Cybermen for maybe thousands of years or something. You know what I mean? Maybe it is, and we see the Cybermen slowly over time upgrade themselves. You know what I mean?
Right, and they fight on many different, because of the way that's structured. The ship,
sure.
What they say, 400 miles long and 100 miles wide.
Yep. So
that's a 400 by 100. They have a bunch of different biomes that they can fight in. That's kind of interesting.
Yeah, it'd be very Matt Smith's final episode where he's battling all those different things on the planet. It'd be similar, but the Doctor and Missy working together to fight the Cybermen, and then winning in the end. Presumably, I would guess Missy will save the day, because that will be her final. She really, really, really is good now. She will save the Doctor.
I wonder if she dies. She kind of almost has to, right? What if she chooses?
Maybe.
What if she chooses not to regenerate, and then the Doctor doesn't want to, and that's kind of his information.
Oh, maybe that'd be interesting. Actually, I'd be down for that. He finally turns his best friend good, and she dies and chooses to die. Maybe she even says, "This would be an interesting bit of pathos from her," is to say, "Listen, Doctor, I'm about to die. I could regenerate, but I'm going to be honest with you. I'm good right now, and I don't want to hurt people. I don't know what's going to happen if I regenerate. My personality's going to change.
Right.
Am I going to be evil again? And even if I'm not, am I going to be good forever? Or are the things 500 years from now, am I going to turn back and be evil and kill countless others? You know what I mean? So maybe she just decides, you're the good in the universe. I'm the bad. You can't...
Oh, yeah.
You can't have two of you.
You know that whole ship's going in the black hole, right?
Oh, totally. It's gotta, right? I don't know. But
well,
anyway,
how are you going to kill an army of Cybermen?
True.
Maybe, and it's going to be something like she has to pilot it or something.
Maybe.
It's pretty standard.
But anyway, I think that's it. Yeah, geez.
Good episode. Really good episode.
It was.
If you didn't have that spoiled for you, let me know. Let me know if you shit your pants, because I probably would have shit my pants a little bit if I didn't know Stim was going to be in this.
Yeah. So, until next time, the final Moffat finale. He'll still have the Christmas episode. He's still writing the Christmas episode. Although, I'm curious, I really, really hope, and I'm sure they would do this, because Moffat, for all of his faults, I think he's a professional fellow. If the rumors are true and the next Doctor is in it, I really, really hope he goes to Chibnall and says, hey, can you write the next Doctor stuff for me? Because I don't want to define that for you. Can you come in here and tell me exactly what you want? Because I'm not going to... Moffat should not be the person to define the next Doctor for Chibnall. That wouldn't be fair. So, anyway, until next time, I'm Hugo.
I'm Jake.
It's almost over.